Great. Miriam, thank you so much. That was really interesting. And certainly, particularly for me, that slide where you're looking at the role of the private sector and the way you describe the round tables, which bring together the various actors, is a sort of a segue for us here to this. It's almost round, slightly round, not really a table, but if we can move into our panel discussion, Etienne, maybe I'll start with you on that subject. I'm going to ask each person to speak briefly into this, but really on that subject of roundtables, everybody's really highlighted the role of multi-stakeholder platforms. Why do you think these are really key to attaining the development goals and the climate goals that we're really pressing for?
Well, I think they're key because if you look at the SDGs, they cover a whole range of different policy areas. If you look at the climate change challenge, they run across all the different sectors of our economies and societies, and well, definitely continuing to work through silo approach. Maybe it's easy or it's the easy way to go, but that's definitely not going to allow us to achieve these multiple interrelated and complex objectives. So working through this program, when we started to design it at EU level, it was actually a very interesting exercise to work. We pooled resources from different teams. We started to design the program together, and actually that led us to propose this to the colleagues in the EU delegation. That met a lot of success. We discussed here about 22 actions, but I can tell you that we received many more proposals. And there is a growing sense that this type of integrated approach, we speak here about integrated landscape management, but there is a growing understanding that this type of integrated approach is actually probably the only way to go if we want to be really speaking towards achieving these integrated objectives. So that's the way we chose to take at EU level with this initiative. It is leading to many interesting spillover effects. And we see now that when we discuss with our colleagues in EU delegation, there is first a much better understanding of these approaches, and second, a much bigger interest to actually work within this kind of integrated framework.
Well, I must say that's really encouraging to hear. Abena, do you want to speak into that? You've seen on the ground the importance of multi-stakeholder fora and that integration. Do you think it could have been done without that?
No way. There is no way we could have made all this achievements and success without the multi-stakeholder approach and the fora and everything that is included in there. So let me give you a typical example in Ghana. From the landscape management boards that were established, we actually have a very good representation of women and youth on the board, right? And then came the National Red Plus Secretariat in establishing the Hotspot Intervention Board or the Hotspot Management Board for the hotspot area, right? Now, we had a series of discussions, introduced them to the governance structure that is existing. They met with them, interacted with them, got to actually know the impact that the structure has made, one, with the people, two, in terms of development and the livelihood option support that they provide to the farmers. And then when it came to establishing the HMB, which is the Hotspot Management Board, key members from our Landscape Management Board made it up there. And here, or at this level, they are still influencing change. So, Dom, we could not have done it without them.
That's great to hear. Cora, is there something that you want to speak into this?
Yes, yeah. Thank you, Abena, and also Miriam. You showed us really nicely how these multi-stakeholder platforms or partnerships could work. Yet, I also see a lot of programs that see the formation of such a partnership as a sort of an end goal. And then these partnerships are created. And as I showed in my image, they are out of the formal governance realm. So they're informal and they stay informal forever. So however nice things they undertake and produce, the results are, or let's say they do not really deliver what we would hope them to deliver and bring these to scale. So I think establishing this multi-stakeholder partnership can never be the end goal. It should be the entry point. And then the challenge is how to connect these to formal governance structures, formal structures of democracy, of participatory spatial planning, and not let these be two separate processes that are each going into their own direction and not be able to create the synergy that is needed there. That would be my point.
Certainly, yes, a powerful point. And on that subject of avoiding separate processes, Miriam, do you want to maybe speak into examples of, you know, there's social justice and there's climate change. Are these separate processes, or are there ways that they can be brought together on the ground?
No, they are definitely not separate processes. So you always need to see them together, these two processes. Just to mention a case of an example from Bolivia, from the regional and local level. At the regional level, for example, in our climate change strategy, we have a strong emphasis on children, on adolescents, youth, and indigenous people rights, with concrete indicators and also concrete measures. So it has a very inclusive emphasis, right? And on the local level, since we're implementing several pilot projects like sustainable livestock, agroforestry systems, etc., here we are working with the most vulnerable people in the watersheds, and also, and these work which are doing has a strong intercultural and also gender focus, and these shows really, and then that'll end, is that we can promote environmental justice and sustainable production and also income sources for local communities, which is really important, but at the same time also foster ecosystem-based adaptation or mitigation measures. So I would say climate change action and justice aspects should always be viewed together. Thank you very much.
So a quick, thank you so much for that, Miriam. So speaking into that, Etienne, are our institutions fit for purpose to achieve that?
Thank you. Yeah, we saw the Slido response, and surprisingly, I saw that quite a number of answers were actually pointing to the fact that institutions, yes, are indeed fit for purpose, and some other, yeah, need to progress. If we look at the EU level, which is the one maybe I know best, as Chantal was saying in the introduction, we've recently proposed this Green Deal, which is a complex set of strategies that are aiming at a central objective of becoming a carbon neutral Europe by 2050. But this is not a single climate strategy. It is actually built around a very wide array of strategies in different sectors. Chantal was mentioning biodiversity and farm to fork, but we also have strategies in transport, in energy, etc. Many on climate change and on environment, circular economy. So in that sense, we've been able to propose this and develop this kind of strategy and move towards the legal framework that is supporting the implementation. So in a way, yes, we could say we are fit for purpose. Now we were speaking about multi-stakeholder approaches, and I mentioned silo approaches, which is the what we try to avoid. And of course, this is a learning exercise for everyone, and we still see sometimes difficulties when some services have to shift away from the traditional approach, etc. But as I said, this is a learning process. We are moving in the right directions, Sorry. Now we have to see at the implementation level. It is a long-term objective. We have to make sure we implement this. We all know that with the current situation, we face quite a large number of crises ahead of us, but our the president of the EU Commission actually confirmed that the EU Green Deal is and continues to be the strategic framework for the EU to move ahead and solve these crises. So yes, definitely, I would say yes, we are fit for purpose, but we still have a way to go to make sure we implement all this.
Oh, good to hear. Thank you so much. Right. I'm going to hand over to Kim for the closing remarks, but of course, we're just getting started on the conversation, aren't we? So I would love to invite all of you to continue the conversation. Send us your provocative questions, your answers, your thoughts, and your musings. On our website, we have a forum. We'd love you to join us there. Over to Kim for our closing remarks. Are you going to stay there? Thank you so much.
It's much more comfortable. Yeah, thanks, Dom, and thanks to all of our fantastic panelists. I think that there's been an incredible learning curve here, and listening to your stories and your different perspectives, I think have really nourished our own understanding of integrated landscape management and how potentially it could be implemented. I think that one really impressive, well, certainly a lot more impressive than my presentation was Cora's, and all of her fantastic graphics. I'm always so impressed by Cora's graphics, but also the ability to summarize the whole dimension of ILM that we need to go into. But I think that in common with all of our presentations today and many of the comments has been the centrality of multi-stakeholder platforms within the integrated landscape management process. I think that this is absolutely critical to move forwards and also then to reflect upon some of the words that Etienne had regarding the EU at least being fit for purpose, but we need to be conscious and aware that that's not necessarily true across the globe, and maybe these are areas in which we have to channel our support to other governments globally as they struggle to address climate change and sustainable development. I also want to highlight again the centrality of these stakeholder platforms in both Miriam and Abena's presentations. I thought that was really great to see, and I particularly like the architecture, and really that speaks to the different ways in which we can implement multi-stakeholder platforms. It's of course the case that what we find is the efficacy of multi-stakeholder platforms is very contextual. And so with both of these projects, what we've seen is really innovative approaches to developing these. And I think also well worth pointing out and emphasizing the way in which they have integrated biophysical processes and concerns into these platforms. And I thought that was absolutely outstanding. So thanks very much to both of you for sharing that. Just by way of some personal reflections, I wondered, of course, when we talk about integration, we typically talk about integration across sectors, but we also, and this is a key challenge, which I thought Cora's presentation again was especially good at illuminating, was how we integrate hierarchically up and down between those who are most powerful with those who are least powerful. And I think that this also then adds to the soup, if you like, of challenges that we're trying to address and the phrase that Cora used was democratizing our natural resources management globally and how we respond to climate change. And then finally, the discussion that we had, which was being led there by Miriam around social justice and climate change, and that these are two processes that need to be able to accompany one another. In view of this point around democratizing our natural resources management, maybe we should start understanding that they are in fact not separate. They are in fact one and the same thing. So thank you.
And that's it, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Just as a little visual reminder of integration, we've got some wonderful gifts courtesy of the women of Northern Kenya, showing how all of our colors can be brought together in one circular bit of joy and practicality. So we'd love to share these with you when we finish. Thank you so much for to the speakers, both here and those that have been joining us. And thank you for all of us. Thank you for joining all of us today.